pursuits of happiness. Okay.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 horror comedy anthology film Dead by Midnight Y2kill. With this being an anthology film, it's got a few different directors because there's 5 stories in this anthology film. It's got a few recognisable faces in there that you may well recognise from horror franchises such as Kane Hodder and Bill Moseley. And essentially, like I said, there's 5 stories here. The wraparound story, I suppose, is that, you know, the devil's looking to get more souls, so he gets like this channel going that kind of draws people in so that he can drag their souls to hell. That's a bit weak sort of thing. But essentially, like I said, we get these 5 stories, and in between these stories, you get like all these like tongue-in-cheek horror ads that are actually pretty much the highlight of the whole thing. Now, I like anthology films. I have watched quite a lot of them. I actually think they're pretty good sometimes. You don't have to put your attention into the stories for so long. Each story lasts about 15-20 minutes, something like that. And they're over and done with. And for the most part, the stories here are fairly watchable. Now, the first one is called Evangelist. And it's about a little old dear that goes around stealing people's bodily organs and giving them to those in more need, if you like, that's connected to an evangelist. Pretty good, pretty decent, I wouldn't call it a gruesome surgery scene, but it's like a surgery scene involved. Quite a nice tongue-in-cheek story, not too bad at all, really. The second story was called Jasper. Now, this one was quite inventive, I suppose. Now, this is quite a low-budget anthology film. But like I say, that doesn't stop them being quite adventurous here, because this story is like almost like a half live-action, half animated piece. And it focuses on this woman who has lost her father, who created this character called Jasper, this like animated show. And whenever this character Jasper is threatened, he rises up and kills those that threatens him. So to save her marriage to her wife, she then kind of pretty much decides that, okay, well, I'll stop doing what I'm doing. He then rises up and tries to kill the pair of them, sort of thing. It's quite fun. It's actually not bad, this one. The animation, while a bit janky, is quite fun, and it's a good idea. It's actually quite an interesting idea what they've done here. The third story was called Clean Your Room, and anybody with teenagers will definitely be able to relate to this story. I've got a 16-year-old son, so I can relate to it. It's about a teenager who won't clean his room. It's an absolute pigsty, and all the linen in his room and dirty clothes and everything else is flung around in his room, kind of develops a life of its own, and essentially, you know, rises up as this dirty clothed monster, I suppose. Again, very tongue-in-cheek stuff, not to be taken seriously. It's all right, nothing special. Makes you cringe a couple of times, not in the right ways, though. The fourth story was called Heroes of Time, and it was, for me, the worst story of the bunch. A good idea, a good solid idea. It almost went with like the Jumanji approach, like the new Jumanji films, where you've got these people going into VR to play like this World of Warcraft type game, which is like a fantasy game where you take on these personas, and then they kind of get locked in the game and the danger becomes a reality, so to speak. But for me, it didn't feel like a horror tale, if I'm honest. It felt more like a fantasy tale for the most part. And it just didn't click with me. The effects weren't shockingly bad or anything, but it just looked a bit, I don't know, it didn't work, I don't think, particularly well. And the last story was a tale called Gut Cruncher, where you get these 2 kids, high school kids, who have used every trick in the book to get out of gym class. And the PE teacher gets his revenge by grabbing them after school and putting them in a wrestling match with a character called Gut Cruncher, who is like this demonic wrestler who is lusting for blood. Again, very tongue-in-cheek stuff. It was very comedic, and just dipped its toe very lightly into horror, I would say, this one. But initially I wasn't keen, but I kind of warmed to it a little bit, this story. So while I think, as I've said, there's no real standout tales here in regards to, now that was brilliant, they're all do exactly what they say they're going to do. They're all quite light. They're all quite comedic with, light horror in each of them. You got this presenter like presenting each of the tales and sort of thing, which she's pretty good. But for me, like I said, I think the adverts are the highlight of this anthology film. The adverts that you get in between the short stories. You get one with Kane Hodder. He turns up a couple of times, which is quite amusing. You get another one wanted to sell you bags of dicks and all sorts of things. It was a bit mad, really, the adverts. A bit like the RoboCop adverts years ago, just with a horror twist. So I actually thought there was quite a bit of invention going on here. And while I don't think, like I say, any of the tales were outstanding, most of them were watchable. And with some highlights with the ads and things like that. So I'm going to be fairly generous here and give this one a 6 out of 10 because I was entertained throughout, even though it's not one that I don't think will particularly stick in the memory. So thank you very much for watching. Of course, I'll be back with loads more content and reviews on the channel very, very soon.